Welcome back, nerds. Fino here. FGO's 6th anniversary comes with a very nice surprise, especially for new players. A free 5-star servant. And unlike last time, this offer's on the table forever. All you have to do is clear Fuyuki and you're good to go. We have a few new friends too, a number of story-locked servants. A wealth of options like this is going to make your head spin, so if you need help deciding, I've worked out a priority system to help you pick. Just keep in mind that not all servants within a priority tier are equally good, and I'll note those distinctions as they come up. First up, we have the extreme value picks. Going from NP1 to 0 for either of these will dramatically improve your count and make your life a lot easier, especially for new players. Of the two servants in this tier, Waver is by far the more important pick. 50% chargers in this game are like gold, and even though he hasn't been the meta support in a long time, he has a lot of value beyond that. For new players in particular, getting access to any 50% support translates into a huge boost to speed for your attackers, giving you on-demand access to their noble phantasms. Among other things, this lets you set up faster farming teams and make your runs more consistent, reducing the need for slow and inconsistent brawling to clean up fights. He's useful at all stages of the game, even as a secondary charger. He's a flex pick in the Chengong system, and he also allows some of the less reliable loop farmers to get the job done, like a discount Oberon. Considering that you get him for free, that's a hell of a deal. So if you don't have Waver, get Waver. Definitely don't listen to the rest of this video where I talk shit about your waifus. Now for a waifu that has a lot of shit talked about them, this is Ruler Jeanne. Her noble phantasm is a don't die button. Play her cards right, and you can use it a lot. Now there are a lot of delusional people that think Castoria is a 1-for-1 replacement, and Jeanne is magically trashed here now. Not quite so much on the video itself, but word gets around. You know how it is. I think a lot of it stems from the fact that, on paper, Jeanne looks really bad. One of her skills is borderline useless, and another is restricted to crowd-controlling servants. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if her skills suck or she has all the offensive might of a baked potato. This potato doesn't mash. You hit your opponent, counter their noble phantasm with yours, recover with its residual healing, and repeat the process until you win. She's like erosion. Jeanne starts whacking a cliff and in 10,000 years there's no cliff anymore. But Jeanne's still there. This slow burn strategy isn't sexy, but especially in the mid-game, you'll find there are enemies you can't face race. If you have the right servants to do a combination of damage, healing, and noble phantasm blocking, that's great. But if you don't, then you have the option of just doing a Jeanne holdout. A one-servant solution. Castoria is not a one-servant solution. She has a lot of amazing tools, but anyone who's had their main attacker blown up on turn 1 will understand that she's prone to getting chipped out and not exactly someone who can recover from that situation. Now they might be thinking of the Immortal team, which is collectively a better Jeanne. But now you're running 3 limited SSR servants, 2 of which you need to personally own. So unless you have some combination of Himiko/Morgan, one of the Merlins, and Castoria sitting around, Jeanne is the raw survivability option. She might be old and crusty, but never underestimate the value of not dying. If you have even a single copy of Waver or Jeanne though, you should move on to the next tier. That would be the Growers. These are servants that do the trick early on, but they also scale into late game usage, through their utility package, some other major benefit, or because they're farmers compatible with the 2 major card type supports, Caster Altria and Koinskaya of Light. Hold your breath, Scotty friends, we'll get to you down the line. Enkidu is neither a looper nor a utility pick, but he does, by a country mile, the most single target damage of any Lancer in the game. This has implications in future 90++ nodes. His defensive skills also make him quite durable, and they let him function as a holdout servant to anchor your team against story bosses. Ozymandias is in the same ballpark, where his raw damage is what puts him in the tier. That said, he does have party support options like a 20% battery and the ability to manipulate buff success rates for your team. Quite nice for an Imperial Privilege user like himself. Now let's talk about the farming buster Growers. These have an edge early on by the virtue of their card type lending itself well towards brawling, and once you meet the requirements for the Koinskaya system, you're in great shape. However, there is an intermediate period where, until you get a K-scope, you'll find more convenient options. But worry not. There's a Craft Essence pick ticket down the road that you can exchange for the fabled scope. So you have a roadmap for account building, and that kind of consistency does have quite a bit of value to it. The good Koinskaya compatible servants on the pick ticket are Altria Saber, Altria Lancer, Francis Drake, and Tesla. For what it's worth, Lartoria and Tesla are story locked if exclusivity is a concern for you. It's also worth noting that Classic Saber does an order of magnitude more damage than her closest analogs. While she's not a Vich farmer on account of being a single target servant, Xuanzang has a notable degree of synergy with our new Fox Overlord. Her massive 80% battery combined with reasonable damage give you quite a solid attacker against assassin bosses. You could even triple NP with her Append skill, taunt, and a bit of help from your enemy. Anastasia and Scheherazade have excellent Castoria compatibility, which would normally make them solid Growers, but I have a few reservations you should know about. FGO-JP recently introduced a system called Evocation, which is a way of obtaining old welfare servants. And while he hasn't shown up yet, Seek is a possibility. And if he does return, the convenience of getting him is going to outweigh the higher rarity of these caster alternatives. It also doesn't help that caster isn't really a desirable farming class to begin with due to their gimped class multiplier. As a matter of taste, I'm partial to the 2-star Chengong over this pair, but he's not really an option for people who are heavily committed to waifu grails. The last but not least of our growers is Tamamo no Mae. She's a powerful but increasingly niche art support who can heal and grant your party cooldown reduction. Unfortunately for her, Jufu is going to come out in a year and she's like a 3-star mini Castoria, which eats what's left of Tamamo's lunch in the offensive department. Defensively though, she's still got one hell of a skill set, and you can get good use out of her if you find yourself in that middle ground of team building, where you don't have the full immortal team but want to clear fights faster than a solo Jean, who kills enemies about as fast as entropy kills the universe. Now we have the showers, who are a cut below the growers. On paper, they have a lot of the same benefits, but do less damage or have more hoops to jump through, like requiring an extra charger or Oberon specifically to function. On the damage front, we have Mordred. At any power above NP1, Blue Saber is going to blow an NP5 Mordred out of the water for 2 out of 3 turns. That's because of the way her major buff works, but that's a story for another day. Altera is another shower, and she actually has a leg up from last time. She'll get a buff that technically lets her 3-turn farm, but she's one of those cases where she needs a 3rd charger to do it, and you don't get much in the way of perks to compensate for the trouble. So she's in this tier but a cut below Mordred. Even less practical are ones that need Oberon, which puts you in the position of headhunting both Vich and Oberon. Even though you do want to have both, you're stuck waiting a while between their banners and it's still a big risk, particularly for newer players. But if you do meet these requirements, you can utilize options like Napoleon, who has reasonable damage potential. The rest of the showers are single target attackers and utility picks, good in a vacuum but have factors holding them back in this list. Berserker Vlad, for instance, is a good arts attacker on paper, but he struggles to do damage in NP1. He also faces competition from the 4-star Creamhild next year, and she's really fucking good at her job. Kualter is here as well, being a survival-oriented berserker with a nice preemptive defensive buff purge. His fundamentals make him a solid early to mid-game beatstick/finisher, but he's in desperate need of some skill upgrades. Quetzalcoatl is a single-target rider. She's not bad, but in most situations, I'd consider her a somewhat worse Ozymandias that's way more annoying to get copies of thanks to her story-locked status. Citanai's alter ego class gives her a lot of inherent value, but especially at low NP levels, her art's compatibility is going to be undercut by a lack of damage. For reference, she and Mecha Ellie do comparable burst damage at equivalent NP levels, but it's way easier to get Mecha Ellie to high NP levels due to her welfare status. Worse yet, Mecha Ellie's coming back this year, so it's some pretty unfortunate timing for Citanai. It also doesn't help that we get another welfare alter ego next year. He's arts and AoE, but he's free and you get him at NP5. Citanai's utility might be better, especially compared to Mecha Ellie, but you really want multiple copies, and as a story-locked servant, she doesn't make that easy. The last of our showers is Jinako, who I admittedly gave far too low of a score last time. She's a defensively oriented Moon Cancer. Some people use her in a defensive survivalist kind of role, but she's no Jean. Defensive class advantage counts for a lot in that role, and Moon Cancer just isn't a defensively relevant class. That part hasn't changed, but I neglected Jinako's team utility. She has a party battery, a taunt, and a targeted invul among other things. Her skill upgrade throws on some extras too. Not a super high priority pick, but far more useful than I initially thought. Now we move on to the tier for niche picks and leftover story locks. The latter includes Queen Maeve and Li Shuwen Assassin, who aren't particularly great, but they're a pain in the ass to get, so collection-minded players might opt to rip off the band-aid here. As for the niche picks, Jack the Ripper is an anti-female assassin, Orion is an anti-male archer, Nightingale is a defensive utility support berserker, and Osakabe Hime is this weird, defensive, quick/buster buffing assassin. In Orion's case, you can fill that niche much more cheaply with Uriel, and the rest have niches that don't necessarily need to be filled for your account to perform well. I do have one final entry in this tier though, Europa. I originally put her in the shower tier because she can technically do the Vich Oberon combo to 3-turn farm, but here's the thing. Her kit is a mishmash of defensive effects that don't really synergize into a coherent strategy, much less an offensive one. Unless she's like 2 to 3 NP levels above your Drake, I just write her off and not bother. Way more trouble than it's worth to do the meme, and without it, she brings very little to the table. Hey Scotty friends, did you think I forgot about you? Well, I didn't, and your time is now. This is the Quick Farmer tier. It includes Achilles and Bradamante, and that's it. The reason why these two are so low is that Quick Farmers are in a really awkward spot. They have exacting refund requirements like arts farmers, but also the high upfront equipment needs of buster farmers. One of their few advantages is that they're going to be 2 separate Scotties that do very similar things, meaning you can bypass the need to get one from your friends list. Instead, you could just run 2 Scotties and pick the attacker of your choosing. It's a cool trick, but one that doesn't require you to pick up quick attackers like Achilles or Bradamante. And now we hit rock bottom. These are generic AoE beat sticks. They're one-pump chumps that can't loop, and they don't have that magical something to make up for it. Oh god, I can read the comment already. Who is this clown YouTuber? Who laughs in my 120 Zhang Yu? First of all, I know it's you, Python, take your meds. Second of all, look at these kids. It's depressing. Zhang Yu is literally just a quick beat stick, and Arjuna and Karna both have 25% batteries, which are outdated. Wanna know by how much? These were originally meant to combo with a limit-broken imaginary element, which gives 75% starting charge. Weird but not insurmountable, right? Well, as of Lost Belt 6's release, Imaginary Element has been removed from the summoning pool. you can't get it anymore. That missing 5% cockblocks these two like you would not believe. And it's not like they have other benefits to make up for it. Karna is still saddled with a bunch of single target buffs and debuffs, which means he just sits there fishing for crits after he blows his load. And Arjuna has this recurring value gimmick and a 5-turn debuff immunity. That last part is admittedly nice, but he just doesn't have a coherent kit otherwise. You just wait while he gets piecemeal value from his second skill. He just flat out sucks, don't let his long buffs trick you into thinking otherwise. You guys might not like me focusing so much on the endgame looping element, but that's what the endgame is. So if you want to do yourself a favor, you very much want to pick a servant that'll let you set up a proper late game team. Unless that's already taken care of, in which case, do whatever the fuck. After that, it's a matter of specializing for situations that your current roster can't handle. But if you need help picking between options in the same tier, consider this. Supercritical utility picks come first. After that, look at attackers. Especially for loop farmers, extra NP levels are something you should consider strongly, since your endgame teams are going to want the extra punch. But yeah, like if you found this video useful, subscribe for more, and come watch me at twitch.tv/RenoTyson, where I stream every weekend, 3 PM Pacific time, Friday through Sunday. I'll be doing my GSSRs and rolling for Coinskaya too, so you won't want to miss it. I also have some recent roll highlights over on Vino and Friends, so head over there if you want to see the great and terrible things that came to visit me. Till next time.